Dwayne Johnson's Black Adam is coming into theaters later this month. So for Forbes, you wrote, quote, the unofficial Black Adam box office preview. What are you predicting?
Well, it was basically if the film opens like most Dwayne Johnson star vehicles, it'll do about over under $35 million. That's incredibly low. Let me update that in a minute. Films like Rampage and Jungle Cruise and the second Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, um, and a couple that I'm probably forgetting offhand, they all open with around $35 million. If it opens as a slightly bigger, a big deal Dwayne Johnson vehicle like Hobbs and Shaw, Jumanji, the next level, then you're talking about $60 million. Now, I'm inclined to think that Dwayne Johnson in a DC Films flick will sweeten the pot. The question is how much of that is overlapping demographics. So where people that would be interested in a standalone Dwayne Johnson action fantasy vehicle are already the people that are going to show up for a DC superhero movie like that. Um, Off the cuff, I'm thinking 70, 75 if everything goes right. Maybe 80 if the reviews are fantastic, but that would be a lot better than most. Oh, San Andreas, the earthquake film that also opened $55 million in the summer of 2015. So if you have a gimmick for a Dwayne Johnson flick, you can flirt with 60, over under $60 million. Again, I think the DC shtick adds to the gimmick, so you might be looking at something closer to 70. Will it open bigger? Maybe. Will it open smaller? Quite possibly. It could be that people, that most of the interest is just concentrated online. I don't know. I'm inclined to think it's going to be fine. It looks snazzy, strong production values. The DC films have generally done pretty well, pre-COVID, despite the discourse arguing otherwise. That's a little complicated. Um, the one thing that I'm genuinely curious about, and I can't get a straight answer from the studio yet, because they the budget, and they tend to hold that to the last minute, and I don't blame them. But
Why do they hold the budget until the last minute?
because there's a lot of moving parts in terms of distributors and studios and production houses, and you basically have to get permission from everybody down the line. That's what I've been told, and that could be incorrect. Anyway, the only reason I care is that if it's a New Line film, and I think it is a New Line, it is a New Line film. If it's budgeted like a New Line film, so 90 to 120, it obviously has to make a lot less money in global box office than if it's a conventional Warner Brothers tentpole, which means it cost 150 to 200 million. If it costs closer to Shazam, great. It can do 400 million and be rolling in bucks. If it costs closer to the Batman with 180, that's a different conversation.
There's a few other big names in Black Adam: Noah Centineo, Pierce Brosnan, as well as Quintessa Swindell. Are these actors going to get additional people to the theater, do you think?
I think there'll be added value element in terms of as well as in terms of the characters they're playing. Aldous Hodge is playing Hawkman. Centineo is playing Atom Smasher. Pierce Brosnan is Dr. Fate. But I don't think those elements by themselves will be butts and seat straws. But the question is, does the introduction of the Justice Society make it more of a big deal than just, oh, it's a Black Adam movie starring The Rock? I think it will. I think it will help. And it's the first big movie since Thor: Love and Thunder in early July. And as we've seen through the inexplicable legs for DC Super Pets, which has earned almost 4 times its opening weekend in North America, audiences are hungry for an old school 4-quadrant tentpole movie. And for some stupid reason, they've been deprived of that for the last 3.5 months.
And it's also been rumored that Henry Cavill may do a Superman cameo in the movie. Dwayne Johnson has hinted at that. Do you think that's possible?
No.
Why?
The people I know wouldn't tell me, and if I knew, I wouldn't tell you. I do know that the internet is very good at whipping up completely false bullshit rumors about Henry Cavill about to do XYZ. And then when he doesn't do XYZ, the internet acts like it's Warner Brothers' fault that the completely bullshit rumor didn't come true.
But Dwayne Johnson has hinted at it. So do you think that adds any weight here?
I know he said something like, by the end of this movie, Black Adam doesn't know who Superman is, or is Black Adam stronger than Superman? It was like, as far as I know, or something like that. But Dwayne Johnson is a good salesperson. He's very good at selling himself. Whether, even if, regardless of whether Superman is in the movie. If Dwayne Johnson would come out right now and say, no, he's not in the movie, that would dominate the discourse in a way that would take away the spotlight from Dwayne Johnson and Black Adam. Regular people wouldn't care. We know this because all three of Henry Cavill's starring Superman movies have been box office underperformers, but the internet would care, and that kind of SEO driven whatever would drive the discourse in a way that would overshadow everything else. If he confirmed that he was in the movie, then that would obviously give away a big surprise, yada, 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 and would also dominate the discourse. So his best course of action is to say, no comment.
Got it. And then let's say, far reaching here, Henry Cavill is in the movie. Would that give this movie more legs? Because it would, turn up conversation.
Unless he's like shows up for the entire third act and fights Black Adam or something like that. But I think if it's a cameo on the par with the button for Shazam, which was very cute, I don't think it will drive the numbers because again, I mean, Superman, and this is my own theory, and I think it's backed up by the numbers. Superman is one of those properties that people know about more than they care to want to see in another giant super duper movie. The same way with King Arthur, Peter Pan, Tarzan, et cetera, which Sony's rolling the dice on Tarzan again. Good luck. That's not to say Superman's not popular, but he's generally less popular than, and this goes back 30 years or so, Batman, Spider-Man, Wolverine, et cetera, et cetera. And with the exception of Man of Steel, which had one of the a spectacular marketing campaign with terrific trailers that still hold up to this day, and was sort of implicitly sold as the next step after Chris Nolan's Dark Knight movies. It was produced by Chris Nolan. His name was all over it. So the film opened with $128 million over its counting previews, but then it sank like a stone. It dropped like 67% and didn't even cross 300 world domestic, and topped out at 668 worldwide. Halfway decent numbers had the film been better received, but it wasn't better received. The audience, I don't think they disliked it. They just weren't thrilled about it one way or another. I mean, I have very mixed feelings on Man of Steel. I think at its best, it's a visually spectacular and genuinely sincere reverse Exodus story where it takes the Superman myth, which is basically Moses, and sort of goes, okay, but what if Moses, what God showed up and Moses said, to hell with this, I'm going to defend the Egyptians against you. And that's an interesting idea. But I think clearly the movie wasn't a huge success, because if it was a huge success, Warner Brothers wouldn't have panicked and thrown Batman into the sequel.